Welcome back to the show. Check out these headlines we have for you here. Gold, Bitcoin gold to 3,000. Bitcoin, could we see a crypto super cycle? David Schwartz says not so fast. Bitcoin may be a security. Hashtag Ripple test. We got that and so much more. New recently acquired Ripple company now partnering with IBM. Somebody roll that beautiful intro.
Digital Perspectives with Brad Kimes. Come on in.
Welcome back to the show. You can follow us on Twitter and YouTube for exclusive content. Right now, it's $1.67 trillion market cap for cryptocurrency. The market is up 3.1% in the last 24 hours. 43,900 plus, just pulling back a bit from the 44,000 mark Bitcoin was at recently. 2253 and change for Ethereum right now. 89.6 billion plus for Tether market cap. XRP is 62 cents, up 1.8 in the 24-hour, up 2.6 on the 7-day. Let's look at the range of price very quickly here. 61 cents on the bottom, 63 on the top. We'll keep an eye on it. Ladies and gentlemen, it's iTrust Capital. I've told you about it. You know I'm a customer. I'm telling you about it because it is the best crypto IRA, gold, silver IRA on the planet, bar none. If you don't believe me, click the link below. If you just changed jobs, left your job, lost your job, whatever it is, you got to do something with your 401k. You know what you could do? Roll it over into your iTrust Capital IRA and get your own back office and be able to control it for yourself. Look, there's nothing better than buying crypto except buying tax-free crypto. And that's what you can do inside there. Now, we know all about the idea that there's a de-dollarization moment coming, and it's already in progress around the world. We know that there are multiple countries joining BRICS in January 2024. Most of them said to already be in BRICS, but we know Saudi Arabia being one of them. That's the geopolitical landscape. Then we see here at home, 64 U.S. bank branches filed to shut down in a single week. Big banks such as PNC, JP Morgan Chase have filed to close several branches in multiple states amid troubling pattern rise of branch shutdowns in recent years. Look, geopolitical side of things, domestic side of things, you scratch just below the surface and there are very, very big problems awaiting all of us, no matter where we live. I do believe that. And I believe that's no mistake in why we're seeing this. Targets now being called for up to $3,000 or just under to $2,800 an ounce for gold. As we watch the chart here from Dark Defender, this is an indicator to me, that we are absolutely watching something very big happen around the world as far as the financial system, the monetary system take place. For gold to be projected to move like this, it tells me that there is something very big coming, and I just hope that we are all prepared enough, and me and my family included, to weather the storm and invest while we're weathering the storm. Now, coming back to crypto here, this is Paul Barron, and he has Scott Melker on the show. Shout out to both of these gentlemen. And he's asked about a crypto super cycle, and I absolutely love this response. Take a listen.
I want to kind of wrap up on a couple of topics here. Ethereum right now, many people look at this as the technology that really could be the next internet. And you look at super cycles, if you compare it to something, say, like an Amazon. Just to give you an example, if you were an investor in Amazon in 2015, do you feel like ETH may be in that kind of position where it's just a super cycle and just all the way up, just because of the technology adoption and all that stuff that we're talking about right now?
I don't think so. Because I just don't believe in the idea of a super cycle, as I said before, and I do think other things will grab market share, but I think Ethereum's going to 10,000 bucks. The fact is, for a lot of us who are crypto native, and I learned this the hard way the last cycle, like many people, even outside of, Voyager bankruptcy and losing millions there. But, when the cycle ends, there'll be plenty of time to buy back. Like 3 years, and I don't believe that things only go up. It's never happened in any market. So I don't think that the super cycle idea is going to come to fruition just because it's the thing that I love. but you become way too overweight crypto, right?
Yeah,
and no matter how much you believe in it, you just got to rebalance, right? And I failed to rebalance some. I took plenty of profit, but I failed to rebalance some in the last market, and I regret it. And I'm not gonna make that mistake again when everybody's telling me that we're going straight to $1 million, right?
I think that's such a great perspective. It's not financial advice from me, him, or anyone else, but this is why I talk about, and I certainly talk about this inside the DPMG, which you can join us in there if you'd like. We talk often about not only creating wealth, but how to maintain it and preserve our wealth. And one of the things I am going to do with my crypto gains is to put them into hard assets, real estate, gold, silver, things of that nature. That's why I have the links underneath the video. That's why I tell you, contact Miles Franklin, put dig gold in the subject box for the best prices. I tell you this because this is what I'm doing. I'm not saying you got to do what I'm doing, but if you're interested in taking your gains and putting them somewhere that they can be safe and earn for you and work in a way that is protecting you, like owning gold, then you're going to want to take a position and try to move forward and make those relationships. Because I tell you, I want to make sure that I take the gains. I love being in this space, but it is a very high risk space. I'll tell you another point that I love that he made here. We see ups and downs in the market. Crypto winners, crypto springs, right? We see these things take place. And we know that we are near some kind of crypto spring at some point. I do believe we have to see some reckoning for Tether, which may impact the rest of the market and certainly Bitcoin. But we're also going to take another look at what's going on with Bitcoin. We know that Bitcoin is on the verge of getting approvals for spot Bitcoin ETFs. Take a look at this from Egrad Crypto here as he shows the history here. I mean, what a beautiful chart this is. So, I mean, your imagination could take you where we should be going here when it comes to Bitcoin. But we also know that there's a regulatory issue at play here, and the halving is in front of us next April. Take a listen. Just 5 months away.
So, question about the halving. I've heard it called the halvening or the halving, but either one. We're getting to that in April, I think, right? And that's been a bullish thing before. I sort of wonder, is it the same thing, though? Is that already getting priced in, or is there something technical that actually happens that would make it be priced in closer to the event?
So, so what we've seen historically is that the 12 to 16 months after a halving is the best performance of Bitcoin. So that's what everybody's thinking about. This time, this time might be different because the price of Bitcoin's higher. We now only have, I think it's 900 Bitcoin a day that come out, so that gets cut in half. It's not a lot of Bitcoin, but what it does do is it makes Bitcoin more scarce than gold. So for the first time in history, you have an asset that is more scarce than gold.
In what way more scarce?
Let's call it a stock to flow ratio. So the amount of Bitcoin mined every year divided by the amount outstanding, same with gold. And now there'll be, quote unquote, less Bitcoin than gold mined on a relative basis.
And look, and to add to Brian Kelly's point here, to build on what he's saying here, 80% of the Bitcoin in the market has been held and not sold during this crypto winter. That's a remarkable number. So there are things to consider here. We're looking at both sides. Ripple CTO Joel Katz counters the argument that Bitcoin can't be classified as a security due to its nature as free code. David says, well, not so fast here. If you go into this, basically what David says is, countering the viewpoint presented by Bitcoin maximalist Bruce Fenton, citing Bernstein versus Department of Justice decision, argued that Bitcoin being free code equates to protected speech and thus falls outside securities classification. Schwartz challenged this argument, suggesting that the context and application of the code are critical in determining its classification. He posited that a broad range of expressions could be categorized as speech, but the government can still regulate them under certain circumstances. I went into a Twitter space, shout out to Perry Ann Boring and the Chamber of Digital Commerce a few months ago, and I highlighted that we need to, as a collective space, and I made sure that they understood. I wasn't saying it because I was a maximalist of XRP. I was saying it because Gary Gensler's at the SEC. Bitcoin doesn't have legal clarity. Bitcoin has regulatory opinion, and so does Ethereum. Don't believe me? It's still true. Take a look at this. As BlackRock makes changes made by request of the SEC to their filing for the spot Bitcoin ETF. These are all the changes that had to be made. Let's look at number 9. Number 9 says added SEC action against XRP issuer as an example of potential consequences of Bitcoin being classified as a security. And if the SEC is the one that made you put that in there, and here it is right here. I think this guy is Joe Carlosar. Shout out to him. It says, interesting update from BlackRock. iShares S-1 filing regarding the concern that SEC could take an approach that Bitcoin is potential security. Seems silly, but apparently the SEC wants the language in there. Well, you know what? And the XRP Ripple Labs is cited all through it in the case. Any enforcement action by the SEC or stated securities regulator asserting Bitcoin is a security or court decision to that effect would be expected to have an immediate material adverse impact on trading value of Bitcoin, as well as the shares. This is because the business model behind most digital assets are incompatible with regulations applying to transactions in securities. If a digital asset is determined or asserted to be a security, it is likely to become difficult or impossible for the digital asset to be traded, cleared, or custodied in the United States through the same channels used by non-security digital assets, in which, in addition to materially and adversely affecting the trading value of the digital asset, is likely to significantly impact its liquidity, market participants' ability to convert the digital asset into U.S. dollars. For example, the 2020 SEC filed a complaint against issuer XRP Ripple Labs. It says into 2 of its executives, alleging that they raised more than $1.3 billion, and XRP says, you know the rest of the drill. But they're citing this, and this is put in there due to the SEC wanting it in there. Here's what you got to remember. What you have to remember is this. Shout out to Wheezy Nerd Nation here. As we know for a fact, Department of Homeland Security has interviewed the 4 people who are in fact Satoshi. They spoke at this conference to the CFTC and the SEC, and they all act like they don't know it. But they do know it because they just made BlackRock put it in here in case it would be a security. Now, I believe digital assets in and of themselves, as XRP, are not securities. But the SEC is leaving the back door open. And maybe this is why.
We looked at Bitcoin. It was the most prevalent at that point. We had seized quite a bit of it, millions of dollars worth under.
This is Rana Sayad, special agent to the Department of Homeland Security, speaking to a bunch of people in a room. Again, CFTC, SEC officials are in this room.
The Silk Road investigation. So one of our agents who started looking at another online marketplace through the deep web, which was called Black Market Reloaded, they were sending weapons through packages and ordering them on the dark web. And he was really, really smart, forward-leaning agent. And he goes, I want to go interview Satoshi Nakamoto. And we're like, what? He said, yeah, I want to go interview this guy. And at the time, we're like, hey, it's a figment of somebody's imagination. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's...
1 second.
Figment of somebody's imagination. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's... So, we had all this pushback from our headquarters. And we thought, hey, if an agent wants to go talk to him and we have some money, why don't we send him? Let's find out how this works. So as it came to be, the agents flew out to California and they realized that he wasn't alone in creating this. There were 3 other people, and they sat down and met with them and talked to them to find out how this actually works and what their reason for it was. And obviously the reason was not so that criminals would utilize it for nefarious purposes, right? But how many of us know that for years criminals have been utilizing traditional cash for nefarious purposes and finding ways to layer that money and then integrate it into financial institutions? At the end.
So there we have it, right? Department of Homeland Security knows exactly who the Satoshis are. It's 4 people. They know who they are. Is that why the SEC wants this put inside of their S-1 filing for spot Bitcoin ETF? Again, I personally don't feel that digital assets are securities. I think anything can be packaged into a security for sure. But I don't believe digital assets in and of themselves are securities at all. But this is something that obviously, you know, I've got exposure to some Bitcoin here, you know, in light of what's coming. But, you know, to me, these are the questions we have to ask ourselves. And you have to ask yourself, how much risk do you feel you're really being exposed to? What are you actually comfortable with? It is a personal decision for each individual. Now, before we get out of here, weigh this in. Where's this at on your risk meter? Yeah, Anthony Welfare, Ripple Advisor. Shout out to you, Anthony. Fantastic work with IBM from Team Medico. As Team Medico says, we work with our partner IBM. That's right. Ripple acquired Medico, partnered with IBM to help build HyperProtect offline signing orchestra, known as OSO, a new technology to deploy cold storage for digital assets, which addresses the requirements of top-tier banks and financial institutions. Who's upset about that? Not this guy. Now, I tell you what, we're getting ready to get into the real conversation right here, and it is the World Evil Forum, ladies and gentlemen. Let me tell you something. It isn't about the pandemic. It isn't about the cyber attacks that have been predicted by 2025 by them, which we better be prepared for. No, no, no. This is about the next thing that they have grabbed onto to be able to control the world's population. This is no joke. And we are going to take it apart here in the Freedom Zone right now. But that's going to do it for us here. Make sure you click the link, digperspectives.com, and join us in the Freedom Zone. It's next to nothing. We're having the real conversation in there. You should join us. Not financial advice from me or anyone else. I'll catch all of you on the next one.